Hey y'all, Noons here. Welcome back to Noons Airborne RC. So if you haven't seen this in a while, it's because it sat on the shelf when I got sick. So now I went ahead and I brought it out to put it together and to show you some tips and pointers on how to set up a turbine if this is going to be your first turbine. Now I'm going to be flying this on my FrSky X20S radio for guidance. And I'm going to be powering this on a KingTech K45 as you've seen in my previous videos when I retrofitted an EDF. The first thing we're going to be tackling in this is the fuel system, and there's some special precautions we got to do with the KingTech K45, and we'll go over that in a little bit. So what do y'all say? Y'all excited? I know I am. So let's get started. Alright guys, so before we start diving into there, you can go ahead and power this on a Zyquoy X45 or a KingTech K45. It's rated for a 45 Newton turbine, so you got two to pick from on the market. I have my KingTech K45 G4 Plus, and this thing, it's been running, gave me a little bit of issues in the beginning. Once I got those fairned out with my elevation, it's been running like a charm. Now, if you fly one of these, then you already know this. If you're getting into the turbine, here's some helpful info for you. A lot of these jets these days, it doesn't matter the manufacturer that you're getting from them. They're coming with like a standard UAT such as this. They have this right in there, a stone filter in the UAT. Now this is an ultimate air trap. If y'all don't know, what it does is it takes away the bubbles from the fuel before it goes to the pump into the motor. That way you don't have a flame out. Now the thing with these stone filters is there's a lot of restriction in here. And the pumps for the KingTechs, they're very highly tuned. And what ends up happening is it ends up sucking real hard to try and keep that ramp up speed. And then when it gets to where it likes it, the pump starts to weed down a little bit. And then it loses pressure pretty much. And then it starts playing this little piggyback game. And that's what's going to give you a fireball or some flame out issues, things of that nature. What I usually run with my KingTech is right up here. It's the MAP filter. It's a paper filter. And with these KingTechs, they like either the paper cartridge filter or the KingTech filter, which is a bag. And you'll have no issues with those. Now I use the MAP Mini. I've used that in my previous model, and that's what I'm going to use in here. Now there's nothing wrong with these UATs if you're running, I believe, a Zyquoy. They don't have this little issue with their pumps. Don't hold my feet to the fire on that. I don't own one, just what I heard. But I do know these KingTechs don't like it. So if you do get this model and you have a KingTech, that's something you're going to have to change out. So let's pull this fuel tank out and let's inspect it. And we're back, y'all. So this is the main tank. We went ahead and already pulled out of the jet, and we pulled out our plug with our lines. So as you can see, this is the overfill line that goes to the bottom of the plane. And this right here to the left is what goes inside. Now, all I did is I added safety wire. And as you can see, they did a pretty good job of plumbing. This is exactly what I would have done. I would have bent this right here at about that 45-degree angle. Added a little bit of a tube. Tank should be nice and full. Got the clunk pushed in. All I did was I visually inspected it. I liked what I seen, so I added safety wire here on the clunk side, overfill line, both sides, and right here, the line that comes from the UAT. I'll also, when I put it in the plane, I'll safety wire that so I get a nice good seal. Good job, AF. Many times on many planes I had to switch all this out, but all I had to do is add safety wire. Now what we're gonna do, so we're going to put this back into the tank, just like that. And when you're tightening this screw, you want to tighten it to a little bit of a touch until you feel a little resistance, and that's about it. These are a double mold tank, and if you put too much pressure, this is going to split your tank right here down this seam. There's your tip of the day. Now that we got this all cinched up, we're going to install this on the model and we'll pick up there. All right, y'all. we got the tank installed, and we're going to go over a few things before I show you what I did so y'all don't have a heart attack. Now, when you do a model like this, it's basically your way. I went ahead and did it my way so you can go ahead and get a good idea of what to do and what not to do. Now, since I'm using a KingTech K45, obviously I can't use the stone filter that comes with the UAT on this, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a specific requirement for the specific engine that I chose to use. Now, in saying that, it also has a specific requirement for voltage. So this jet right here comes with a dual input and dual output UBEC, and it's 7.4 volts gets sent out to the brake controller, and then 6 volts gets sent to your receiver that powers all your electronics. And with the KingTech, it requires 7.4 volts or above to run the ECU, and also you need a life battery to run the turbine. So I'd have a total of 3 batteries. And yeah, I could have branched off of that UBEC, but 3 batteries in a limited space, that was already getting too tight for me. So I'm going to go ahead and use the same system that I used in my Avanti conversion. I'm going to use a Castle Creations 10 amp UBEC, and I have that little cable that I'll be showing you on how I split off the power. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what we've done so far. Okay, everybody. We have everything in there. Mind you, it does look like a big old spaghetti of wires. I just got everything roughly plumbed all the way up to the fuel filter right here. So that Velcro that I showed you that was on the tank that I told you I'd tell you about it later, to maximize the room I had in here, I went ahead and I made a shelf. And I'm using 20-pound Velcro to hold this plate on. So this thing, it is not going anywhere. And on this plate I have the ECU for the turbine, and I have a Nissan AG63 that's going to be doing the brakes and a nose steering gyro. My fuel filter, what I'm thinking is I'm also going to have that running here. I haven't quite made up my mind. So with our tank installed, as mentioned previously in the video, we have our MAP Mini UAT right underneath where the stock UAT went using the stock strap. And we have it all plumbed up, all safety wired, and we have the tank put in the most aft position. And as you can see, this right here is the one battery that I'll be running all the electronics, and here's my life battery. If I was going to have 2 batteries to power the BEC, I'd also have to fit this battery, and I already have the valve in there, and I still got to mount the receiver. So as you can see, it gets pretty tight in here really fast, and we might have to move things around when we deal with CG. So the way that we have it plumbed is this right here will be our inlet right here. So when we fuel and defuel the plane, will be through this hose right here. Fuel will go in the UAT. Once the UAT gets filled, this blue line going into the tank will fill up. And then we have our overflow, which is right here that goes down to the bottom of the plane. We lifted our gear controller right up here. This will be a lot cleaner once we get it all said and done, y'all. Our 4mm ball valve right there. So the path of the fuel, when it's going to the turbine, it's going to be pulled out of the tank into the UAT. The UAT will go ahead and expel the fuel bubble free. And we have a line running underneath here to a 6mm to 4mm Festo. To the back of the plane, to the pump, back to the front to this 4mm ball valve, through this tube, through the filter, and then finally to the turbine. And here's the rear hatch area. We went ahead and installed our pump right back here. I don't use the zip ties. I just go ahead and wood screw it down. That way I know it's secured. And right here, this is the spar, and this is the back of the tank. And as you can see, when I put the tank in, it's touching the back of the spar. And that should help with CG. We'll find out later on. All right. As mentioned earlier on the power requirements, this is the life battery. So this right here goes directly to the turbine. This is what supplies power for the spark. Now, as for my electronics, the way that I have this wired up is this right here is Pulse 2550 2S battery. And the great thing about this battery, y'all, is not only does it come with the XT60 connector, but it also comes with the servo connector that comes in quite handy. So I plug this XT60 connector right into here into my own manufacturer cable, and as you can see, there's two leads that come off. One set of leads goes directly into the Asan to power the brakes, and the other end goes into my Castle Creations UBEC that's right underneath here. That's going to supply power to my receiver. Now, how do I do that? I do that with my nifty little cheater cable. So the way that I have this ran is this thing right here will be powering the 6 volts, and that's the 2 lines here, and I don't have the signal wire because I don't need that. So right in here I have my 6 volts that will go into my receiver, and the only thing I need for my receiver to my turbine is signal. So I have this signal wire that goes right into here, that goes into my ECU for my turbine, and then I have this bad boy right here that I connect into this spare servo lead that powers the 7.4 volts needed for the ECU. And that's how I negate all this and get away with using 2 batteries, which is less weight. I'm only saving about 200 grams so far, but every little weight saved is great. Well, everybody, that's everything that we got done on the jet so far. So make sure you stay tuned for video 2 in the series. We're going to be filling up the plane, making sure there's no leaks, and installing the turbine and finally firing this thing up and making some noise. Hopefully you liked this video. Hit the like button. Noons out.